Why do you say that, Father? You aren't afraid, are you?
No, but I respect some of the superstitions of others. Often they are founded in fact.
Broadcasting live from our Sanctum Sanctorum in Venice, California. This is the Sixth Sense Society. I'm your host, Krista, here with our producer, Michael, and we are most excited to have our first in-studio guest for 2022, Holly Lindblom. And she is a good friend of the show. She's a paranormal investigator and also photographer who's traveled all over the country for many, many years, taking pictures, investigating. So we really wanted to catch up with Holly today. So welcome, Holly.
Hi, everybody. It feels so good to be back.
Now, before we get started, Michael does have a couple announcements.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Having a few tech issues today, so hopefully we'll sort that out along the way. We have all kinds of great stuff coming up. Next week is going to be, of course, Spell It Out, our beginning of the month of March. And we're lining up some really great guests for March, so we're excited about that. One of the things that we did want to give a quick shout out to is our good friend Craig Owens, and Holly and Krista will be talking about him, and he's getting his ghost tours up and running again, so that's exciting. So we encourage all of you to look into that. Get all the information on our website, sixthsensesociety.com, SIXTH, all spelled out. And while you're there, if you can afford to, buy us a coffee on Ko-Fi. It's really nice to get a little extra money to help buy equipment and cameras and stuff. We appreciate those of you who have contributed a little bit to the show. And if you can't afford it, we still love you anyway. So keep tuning in. And the best thing you can do is hit subscribe and like and all that good stuff, which really helps us the most. So don't want to take up too much more of your time because we have a lot to cover. I know Holly's been busy traveling around. So without further ado, I'll kick it back to you guys. So take it away, Krista.
Great. Thank you, Michael. We did want to shout out, Craig has started out his tours again, and he has one posted on his Instagram that he's doing that for the Hotel Alexandria Ballroom, which is a fantastic building. And Holly and Craig are good friends.
Yes, we are.
And so I'll read a little bit about the blurb he posted. Haunted by History author Craig Owens is offering a tour of the fabulous, historic, and mysterious Hotel Alexandria Ballrooms in downtown Los Angeles. The Alexandrian is the other main hotel that America Horror Story based its hotel season on, which I didn't know. Hang out in the ballroom where Charlie Chaplin played, Harry Houdini dined, and Rudolph Valentino danced. Don't forget to bring a camera, and it's Friday, March 4th from 7 to 10 p.m. You go to his Instagram, Bizarre Los Angeles, and we also have his information on our website. You can find it there. I couldn't tell if he's sold out because he often does sell out pretty quickly, but he'll be doing others, and he's just a fantastic tour guide and historian, and so I totally encourage you to take that tour or any others with him.
Sometimes he'll release tickets too beforehand.
Okay,
so
I see.
that's really cool that he does do that.
So like before he even posts it, so you can
sometimes
you can ask,
or
like,
people will cancel. They have lives
that's
or whatever,
true.
and then he'll release the tickets. So that place is awesome.
Oh, cool! You've been there?
I've been there in the '90s. Though I went to clubs there.
Oh.
Yeah, for like Power 106 and all those things. And I remember being up there with the ceiling practically falling down from the base. And it was real creepy, and they still had some of the old furniture downstairs. And I mean, but it was getting bad at that time. I mean, it looked like it was falling apart. They just put a bunch of speakers in there and let the kids take over and dance.
So I assume they've renovated it.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
So the creepy factor could work.
Yeah, exactly.
I did want to mention that you came on the show. The first show was in October of 2019.
Wow.
And you've been on like 3 shows and a couple of the paranormal specials. And so we just wanted to, let people know that they're in our archives too. And she always has great stories about her adventures at the different locations. And you're probably a person I know that's traveled one of the most in terms of, except maybe some of the TV show people. But just as an ordinary person.
I'm not getting paid like the TV
No,
show people.
and
I'm
it's
doing this off my
impressive.
waitressing tips.
It's impressive.
I mean, I'm literally saving it up and going and booking and these things. I mean, it takes me 4 to 6 months, I would say, to plan it, do the research. But these have always been on my radar since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm finally an adult, and my kids are almost adult. Well, my son is. He's been on the show twice. My daughter will be 18, so it's easier for me to go out.
Yeah.
Now, because I don't have to hire a babysitter.
Right.
I can take off and be like, hey, I'll be back. I'll call you, and it's my passion.
It definitely is. It's something I love about you. Is it's really a passion. You can tell by the pictures, your enthusiasm. Now, it looks like you were on a tour that was more West Coast based, right? This time.
This time.
Yes.
Because I am writing this book, being a Southern California native, I can't necessarily just write about the South. If I'm truly from California, I'm from Los Angeles, I need to go all the way up. Now, I did had a trip that I was planning to go to Washington, to Seattle, go through Portland, go to all the haunted places, but I took the vaccine and I got sick. So I had to cancel that. So this is happening a year later after that. And I was able to get up as far as above San Francisco this time. I took my own car because rentals are so expensive. It's ridiculous, okay?
Yeah, they've gone up a lot, haven't they?
Why? I don't know.
I don't either.
Okay, everything has.
Yeah.
So I was like, do I just put the gas in my car and go? Yeah, that's what I did. New tires, let's go. And it made it. The only thing that happened was the plastic on my rear light fell off on the 5 freeway. Oh well, that's all that happened. We're gonna rock it. Oh well, we'll get a new one. I made it all the way up, and I did it in 4 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And how many locations did you stop at during that time?
At least 8 or 9.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I did. In San Francisco, I have been obsessed with since I was young. And then with all the turn of events that have been going on, I've kind of been like, do I go to San Francisco? You've heard in the news, it's not as a safe place to go to. But what I experienced, it was fine.
I hadn't heard that. I heard that people at the beginning of the pandemic, everybody was leaving. There was like one of our clients said there were like moving trucks on every corner because of, they had to leave. They couldn't afford it.
Right.
And so I knew that, but I didn't know it was becoming more dangerous.
Yeah, the homeless encampments were getting dangerous up there. That's what some of the news was saying in some of the podcasts that I was watching up there. But like you said, people have left the Haight-Ashbury scene. I mean, it's happening. There was nothing I seen that was dangerous or anything besides haunted houses, the murders that occurred in these haunted houses. Other than that, I mean, it was really cool.
So where did you go in San Francisco?
I actually am, I know you are too, I love Anne Rice. And knowing that she had passed away, I went to the Interview with the Vampire locations. So I went to the street that she would walk by, because she lived in the Tenderloin district, her and her husband. So I would go by, I went to the house that she thought of in her mind that was the Interview with the Vampire house, where she pictured the vampire Louis giving the interview to the boy, the newspaper guy, who was supposed to be River Phoenix but passed away. And
I know.
Yeah. So, and then I went to the actual shooting location where they shot the scene at. So I did that up there. I went to a house called the Atherton Mansion, which is in so many of my books. That one I just posted today on my Instagram page. She built the house. She took over the house, and what had happened was her husband had died overseas, and they put him in a rum barrel and sent him home.
Wow.
Now the story is that they delivered him to the house, but he was delivered to the dock. But they put him in a rum barrel to send him home. That's sad. So they say that he's upset, and that's why he haunts the house. Also, there was another woman that lived there with her 50 cats. They say
50 cats.
50 cats. It's documented.
Wow.
50. So they subsidized this place into like these apartments and everything. But this lady, they said they still see her, and she lived there with her 50
Do they see
cats.
the cats?
Yes. They see her and her cats.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
and him, and that's the guy. And then I also went to, up in San Francisco, a couple of the old Victorians that survived the earthquake that are still standing, that the firefighters actually really got in the way of these homes to save them. So I seen that. That was a Haas Lithuanian house. I think I'm saying that right. It's beautiful. It's like this beautiful gray Gothic architecture. I went to that house and just drove around the streets, got to see Alcatraz from afar. How have you ever been up to San Francisco?
I used to go when Michael would go to Grand Lodge for masonry, and I would go and wander around. I love San Francisco.
I love it too. Yes. And my boyfriend took me to a place where there's all these tiny little it says it's really haunted there, where you put in the quarter machines, and they're all the old ones from they're from England and stuff. They are so macabre, you guys. They're all about torture and death and execution, and they have these as like toys, like they're for like entertainment for like kids. Like, who does that? Like, there was so many of them. Gypsies, fortune telling. It was amazing. But they say that was really haunted. I went to that too. Yeah, and then of course the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yes. And then I saw photos of the Columbarium.
Yes, the San Francisco Columbarium.
That was beautiful. I don't know why I didn't know about that.
Yeah, the Neptune Society runs that. That's where they had stopped burying people in a certain place, and they started cremating. That's where Harvey Milk is at. A couple other people, but they say it's really haunted by the ghosts of the people there. Funny stuff, not really funny, but my grandpa wanted to be part of the Neptune Society. Do you know what the Neptune Society is?
It's connected to death, but I'm not quite sure.
Cremation. They basically take the body, they leave a rose and a note, and then they cremate you and they put you in the sea. I was selfish. I was like, I want you. I don't want you to go to the sea. Like, and I'm just, where am I going to go? I still have my grandfather, but I convinced him not to do the Neptune Society. And he was all for it. My aunt and uncle did it. They were both in the Navy, but this is the first time I've ever been to the Columbarium. It was overwhelming sadness I felt there. I've been to so many graveyards, so many places, but I actually felt really sad. Maybe it's because of the Columbarium being so personal in the niches that you get to see what these people did, their pictures, their spouses, little knickknacks, what they were about, their favorite sports, all these things that it just made it more, I don't know if it's real or more sad that you felt like a connection by looking at their niches.
So they get sort of memorialized.
Yeah.
Even though their ashes aren't there.
Their ashes are there.
Oh, they are?
They are there. They're in the niches. You have to, and it says to purchase them ahead of time and everything, but then they decorate them, the family.
Yeah, the personal stories are always the ones that get to you.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, they're really sad, and there's a lot of gay couples, and they're together, and they put them together, and it's just so sad. And Harvey Milk was sad too, seeing his, and then you see Sean Penn being him, and I posted that picture. So that they say it's haunted. I just felt overwhelming sadness there.
It was very beautiful. The stained glass windows. Wasn't it like on the above? Yeah, it's a very beautiful,
like an octagon.
An octagon. Well, I mean, I would think San Francisco in general would have a lot of good places to go for hauntings.
Yes.
And similar to Los Angeles, probably the more you live in a place, the more little places you find that aren't necessarily, the well-known historic sites.
Right. Exactly. And then like you go to the Haight, and then you see like Jimi Hendrix's Red House. Then you go down the street, you see where the Grateful Dead were at, and Janis lived, and all these greats of rock and roll were in San Francisco. And I love music besides ghosts. So that was another thing that I, wanted to go up there and see for myself.
Well, I know you stopped at some other places too.
Did.
So what were some of your other places your favorite places that you stopped at?
I stopped at, on the way down, because I went up and I stopped at my very first stop before I hit San Francisco was the Tuttle Mansion, which is in Watsonville. And that's a beautiful red and white Queen Victorian. And the funny thing about that was when I walked up in there was a man that was doing the gardening, and he happened to be the nephew of the owner. So he gave me a little bit of tidbit of how they remodeled the house and how the doors would close. They found a secret passageway. They were going into the back of the house. They found another part of the house. And they would hear whispering, and they would hear just doors slamming constantly. But he said it was definitely haunted, and that he wasn't scared of it. And he was like, yeah, it's a real estate office, and go to this other haunted house off of Highway 1. He was telling me to go to this other place. I don't know how to say that one right, but there is another one that is being going to be demolished for apartments. One of those things.
Yeah.
But he was really cool, and he gave us an insight and was telling us all this stuff, and I have him on camera kind of talking. I hit Watsonville. Then I went to the Rengstorff house, which is a very interesting story because Rengstorff, he was a German immigrant that came here. And I've done a little bit of research about him, and that when he was traveling here, he was held up by a bandit. Well, the bandit heard his heavy accent and didn't know he had $2,000 in his brief, didn't even check him and let him go. So he came and he built the Rengstorff house after his family lived and died in the house off of Shoreline. Or it's off of Shoreline now. It's in Mountain View, California. It's an hour away from Watsonville North. The house sat there vacant for many, many years, and no one would stay in this house longer because they get the heebie-jeebies. They'd hear things, the doors would close, walking. People thought it was haunted. So what happened was it laid dormant. I mean, the people just graffitied it, took it apart. And because of the wonderful people that restore and believe in history, they're the ones that moved it to where it is now and restored it. And then that's the Rengstorff house, and it's absolutely beautiful.
So they moved it. So does that mean that the ghost followed?
You know, maybe. I don't know.
I suppose some ghosts could be attached to the actual land or to the house. Yeah.
I watched a couple things online where they didn't really talk about it being there now, but they did say that it was back then. So maybe she stayed there, but the fact that it was haunted and they actually put it on rollers and moved it to a new location, that's amazing that they did that they saved it. It's called the Friends of R or something like that they did. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some people that are really great in saving historical places.
Thank you, those people. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Right?
We do value them. Just all the places people love to visit and just all the character and history. America can be brutal sometimes with that. Though I suppose other countries are too. We're not the only ones that destroy our history.
Yeah, Hollywood especially. They just want to burn it and put up a parking lot. You know?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, or a new strip mall, or new
something
apartments that
really
no
awful.
one can afford. But hey, we're gonna put some new. Like they're gonna take down the Viper Room.
Oh, I did hear that. Yes, I know.
All the history there. Yeah,
I know.
So,
yeah. It's bad in LA. LA there's a beauty in LA and there's a sort of soullessness to LA. Yeah. So you got both factions fighting against each other sometimes.
That's right. That's right. So after I went to the Rengstorff house, I went to the Moss Beach Distillery. I made it there on time to actually catch the sunset, which I never thought since I was a little kid reading this in America's Haunted Houses books that I would actually be able to be there. And even on the menu, it shows the Blue Lady. And the Blue Lady, there's stories of her from the Prohibition time. She was married to a bootlegger, but was having an affair with a piano player.
Of course.
No, just kidding. And she liked the musician, right?
Yes,
of
the course.
Musicians.
Yes.
Okay, so she's over here and she's hooking up with this piano player at the beach. Well, the bootlegger's coming in because this place was called Frank's Roadhouse, and it was really known at the time for bootlegging, loose women, you name it. This was the place to come to get your booze. And he caught her on the beach, and there's stories that say she jumped in front of her lover. Anyway, she was stabbed, and they saw her in the morning. They found her, and she had died. And they say that ever since then, she's there haunting the Moss Beach Distillery. Waitresses, people from the management, it's all over. And the coolest thing I think about it, guys, is that it was on Unsolved Mysteries. Robert Stack was there. And being an 80s kid, to me, it's like Unsolved Mysteries went there. So when you go downstairs, where they say is the most haunted, by the women's restroom, Robert Stack, all the stuff from Unsolved Mysteries is there.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, and like Fatty Arbuckle used to go there, Joe DiMaggio. I mean, all the stars used to go there too. Why is it gangsters and celebrities? They just
Is there similar?
They're rich. They like to party. I mean, obviously, right? So those two are there. That whole factor of that. But the Blue Lady, they say, is there to this day. Taps went in there. And they didn't tell them that they had rigged it up to enhance the hauntings, like a face behind the mirror. And Taps is like, why didn't they tell us this? You know, why didn't they tell them that they had enhanced the experience? Like the chandelier, they would have it like go every hour and stuff like that. But they didn't tell them that. So it made it be like it was fake. But people and patrons and guests, they still say they see the Blue Lady.
Is she the Blue Lady because of her dress or what she's wearing?
She always wore blue.
She always wore blue.
She always wore blue. And then on Unsolved Mysteries, they say that it could have been a lady that a famous Mexican musician, Spanish Mexican musician wrote a song about. And she died. She's looking for her music. That's on Unsolved Mysteries. And then there's also a motherly woman figure that saved some kids from a bluff that some children seen that said, "Go away, kids. It's dangerous right here." Because you can literally walk down up into the bluff right by the Moss Beach Distillery. Yeah.
So is it my imagination, but it seems like a lot of the famous stories involve a woman that has been murdered or committed suicide. Is that,
Yes.
Are we drawn to those more, or are they actually
Maybe they're
more
just
up them?
talked about more.
They're
or
talked about more?
They're always, yeah, because of the love struck lover and all these things, and the fact that they keep coming back for their love. And yeah, because it's February. Remember we talked about this like 2 years ago about love and, you know, the whole thing about that. And yeah, I do believe that.
It's like a gothic romance.
Yeah.
Paranormal gothic romance.
Anne Rice would eat it up. She does.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, now she could be haunting.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wonder if she is.
You know what? I don't know. I wonder if because she wrote all those stories and the Mayfair Witches in the House in New Orleans and loved it. And her son, Christopher, returned her back home. So I wonder if she is. I wonder if they're going to see her, if she would, or things would be moving. Or
I bet there's a channeler somewhere that's going to channel her. I'm
should.
not saying that it's real, but
I know, me neither. But if you,
and I think channeling can be real, but sometimes people, you know, they try to pick a celebrity just because it'll, you know, get them some attention for themselves.
Yeah, that's true too. They'll like go off of
But
that,
it seems like somebody like her, that's possible.
Yeah. Because she believed in all of that.
Yes.
And she believed in vampires. And she wrote these stories. And it's so sad that her baby girl died. And that's why she wrote, you know, the vampire series and all that stuff. And going to San Francisco and seeing like where she lived and all that stuff, that was so neat.
Yeah, it's really, it's amazing to see where your favorite artists and authors are. There's just something organic about it. Very soulful. I love that too.
Yeah, because I went to New Orleans and seen all of her stuff too. So to go to San Francisco too was just kind of like, wow. I love those movies. I love those books. I haven't read them all. Mama Cindy, if you're watching, I need to borrow some. Yeah, definitely.
So I saw on one of the places that you went to was the Mystery Spot.
The Mystery Spot. I did it. Oh gosh, that place is so cool. Take your kids, guys. It's so neat. Have you ever been up by there in the Santa Cruz Mountains?
I didn't even know it existed until I read your list.
So, you know, you come out of like a city and then you just get into the forest and you're just driving and you see the sequoias. I guess they're considered baby sequoias. I don't know, but they're beautiful. I love the forest. I love trees. I love that smell. And you get up in there and, okay, so this man bought this land and built a cabin. When he built the cabin, they told him to be very careful because basically there was a geological force underneath, magnetized. There was something going on there. So the cabin slid to where it's at right now. And they do have it kind of like optical illusion. I don't want to ruin it. But there's something that makes you feel really, really lightheaded. Like I had to hold the wall. You literally walk through it. I mean, if you've been to the one for Southern California people in Knott's Berry Farm, it's similar to that. Have you been to that one? So that makes you feel really lightheaded and very disorientated. I guess that was what it would feel like if you had vertigo. and you walk around and you have to hold yourself up. And the way they have it, you could walk up the walls, and there's this like ball of iron that you push that comes back, and it looks really weird, and you hold on to things, and it is amazing. It was just a novelty just to go because I was on my way, and I've always seen the bumper stickers, so I had to get a bumper sticker.
It sounds really cool. I'd never heard of it, and it just sounded like a really fun thing that anybody could enjoy.
Yes, the mystery spot, and it's not necessarily haunted or scary. It's fun.
It goes along with the theme.
It does. Totally.
Because land, as we know, has its own energy. And we've talked about this where in previous shows that we feel like certain parcels of land we're not supposed to live on, that there are these spirits that are just wild, and they're not necessarily evil, but we're not meant to interrupt that. So
like indigenous people, we're not supposed to go onto their ground.
Yeah.
We're supposed to leave that alone. That's sacred, and we need to respect that. And there's people that don't respect that, and they wonder why we're getting haunted by things.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I assume you mean their burial grounds.
Yes.
Because otherwise we'd have to all leave the continent.
Yeah, that's true. I mean their burial grounds. I mean their burial grounds.
I figured that's what you meant.
Yes.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to talk to some indigenous people about their own experiences with spirits and ghosts. So maybe
and their
we
beliefs
can do that.
of what they really believe. My friend Joaquin, he talks to me about it a lot and what they think. And I could just go for hours listening to this stuff because it's amazing to me. Mm-hmm. I like it a lot.
Yeah. No, so there's definitely places that are, I wouldn't even call them necessarily haunted, but I think they cause hauntings because they're just intense. So they'll cause things to happen that perhaps might not happen.
Right.
Because like we don't understand the energies or, and you hear that sometimes on Ancient Aliens I'll watch, and they'll say like the indigenous people be interviewed and we're not supposed to go here. We know that, but you guys don't.
Yeah.
and then there they go.
Idiots. Exactly.
So you did mention you're working on your book, and that's one reason why you were going on the West Coast. So how are you doing with the book so far?
I'm getting along really far in it. It's just the point of putting it down on top of working and everything else.
Yes.
I'm trying to survive in Southern California, and going on these places. So now that I have a lot of West Coast, I want to finish it by this year. I want to be done because I have done it.
So you've got the South and you've got the West and Midwest. What are you focusing on in the book?
Okay, so like I've been told I should do like a trilogy because I haven't done the East Coast. Mm-hmm. I've never been over to New York yet, or Salem, or Connecticut, or Rhode Island.
You have to do Salem.
I need to go over to that area. Yeah, I have to do Salem. I have I have to see all those things. And so I want to do, California, and then through Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. And then I want to do the South, which would be, Louisiana, because, I lived in Kentucky briefly, and then like Tennessee, Memphis. There's a lot of haunted houses in Memphis. Kentucky has Waverly Hills too, so that's, and then I caught a ghost on camera in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Mm-hmm. Still haven't been to Savannah, Georgia, or Florida. So I'm going to make my way, but I can still write about all the places I've been to. I'm coming up on like 350 now. Because I was at 300, now I'm at like 350.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I know you want to go outside the country at some point too.
I do.
Yeah, international.
Yeah, I do. As long as everything's cool and we can go and I'm vaccinated and everything is fine, let's go, because I want to see the Tower of London.
Yes.
I want to go over there because they say those princes haunt that place. So I do want to get out and do that. But I got to focus on the United States first.
Yes.
And of course, like Alaska and stuff too, because that's really haunted up there.
Oh. Mm-hmm. So who's talked about Alaska?
Not really a lot of people have, but it's in some of my books. Anchorage. Mm-hmm. And then you know how Alaska's like one of the #1 suicide capitals.
Oh, I'd forgotten about that.
So there's a lot of that because of their weather and their days of the darkness and their days of no sun, and people just are really sad. Just like I guess like Seattle is, but Alaska is really scary with some of their, and then they have a lot of the folklore of this Bigfoot and stuff like that, and monsters, which they could be real. We haven't touched on everything up there.
Yes, yeah. Bigfoot's definitely an interesting one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's some of it seems a little far-fetched, but sometimes there'll be something I'll see like, oh, actually, that seems legitimate.
Yeah, like that's fun. He might be out there, Harry
Yes.
and the Hendersons. Yeah, I want to hope. Like I like Loch Ness. I love Loch Ness monster.
Well, I was talking to someone, a friend of mine, about the ocean, how they're discovering new species, and it is amazing what can hide from us.
Yeah.
And some of those forests are so big still that
Yeah.
you could have some animals that no one has really seen much of.
Of course.
Yeah. So it is possible, I would say.
Definitely.
So any other places that you want to talk about that you saw recently on your
I went
trip?
to then I went to the Ringstraf House, Moss Beach Distillery, the Blue Lady, went up to San Francisco, shot down, had to see the Winchester Mystery House. Again, just to do it. It's really sad that they have built all around Sarah's house. You can't see the mountains anymore. It's
And Sarah is who?
Sarah Winchester, the woman that built the house. I seen a thing on TikTok the other day that said that the docents are told to lie about some of the history, which I think is unfair, and they shouldn't be doing that, especially with their high charges that they're lying about some of this
So
stuff.
what would be the benefit of lying? Just
I don't
to make
know.
it seem more sensational?
I guess so, yeah. Sensationalism, that it's haunted, that she did all these things, and there was a TikTok that said that, and I hope that's not true, but who knows. But the fact that there's apartments going up all around it, and that you can hear the hammering, just like she 24/7. Maybe she finds comfort in that. I don't know. But you can't even see the mountains anymore. There's literally like apartment building right in front of the house. And I told the tour guide, he's like, doesn't it feel a little trapped in here now? I'm all, yeah, it does. It feels even weirder now that there's no fields around anymore. It's just all built up around this oddity of a home. Yeah.
That's a very big home, isn't it?
It's very big.
Yes. I remember now. I think we talked about it
Yes.
a long time ago on one of the shows. Yes,
yeah. It's huge. And so that's one of the one. So after going to the Winchester Mystery House, I wanted to go to the Brookdale Lodge. And that was a big one for me, to get a room there and actually stay there, because I have read about this since I was a kid, and the little ghost of Sarah. I mean, we're talking countless shows have tried to catch her. So many Ghost Adventures, all of them. All the big ones have been there. And the thing about that was, I did my research on it. I want to make sure I don't get the dates. Harvey Logan, he actually came from Indiana in 1868 to Santa Cruz. And he was an attorney general that became a judge. Okay. And right away when he got here, he was already involved in extramarital affairs. And it's in the papers that his wife whipped him with a horsewhip.
Good for her.
Yeah. And he ended up divorced her, called her unstable or whatever, divorced her, married another woman. She died of Bright's disease at Brookdale Lodge. So what does he do? He marries the secretary that he brought in, has kids with her at 72 years old.
Oh.
And that's all in the paper. I researched some of this stuff. And this guy, it was his niece that actually hit her head and died on the brook where they see the little girl at. Okay, so fast forward, a lot of deaths occurred during the time when Harvey Logan was there. His third wife, it would be her third wife, the secretary, the daughter that he had, and the niece or whatever, all three of them perished in a stream right by the lodge. They couldn't swim. They were all 15 years old. The other one went in. They couldn't swim. They all perished. Okay. Then fast forward, a doctor buys it. He's the one that made the Brook Room. So when he was there, that's when a lot of stuff started happening. And then you fast forward to the 40s and the 50s, you get the gangsters coming in, the mobsters, and people like Marilyn Monroe, James Dean, Joan Crawford, Shirley Temple, W.C. Fields, Tyrone Power. They all went to this retreat in the Santa Monica Mountains to get away from Hollywood, from the show business. It's 6 hours north. And that's happening. That's when they said that there was secret passages underneath for the bootlegging. People have actually sought these out. They have seen the tunnels underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And they say they are for bootlegging, but they said there's a lot of bodies and all this stuff that could or could not be. When we're talking about gangsters and mobsters, we don't know. The bodies
That's true.
everywhere. You don't know who they're getting rid of.
That's true.
So a lot of things occurred there. Like when a waitress killed herself there, a dishwasher killed another guy and then shot the daughter who's seen the body. Another guy went in the 60s. He had a shotgun and there was like 4 women, because there's like these bungalows in the back side of the lodge. He went in there and beat them all up, said he was going to kill him and kill himself. He didn't. God, he didn't. Recently a man fell down a hole and broke his neck.
Ooh.
A 13-year-old girl. So there's a mermaid room, which is a pool with the glass that you could sit in the lounge in the bar area. And you could watch like these mermaids, like a show. A 13-year-old girl drowned in there, and they kept
horrible.
seeing her. Yeah, at one time it said that there was like close to like 30 something weird deaths and occurrences and violent deaths that occurred there. The Hells Angels would take over this place and rent out a bunch of rooms and do all their business there. What else was there? Okay, so yeah, the little girl, she passed away in the brook. The girl, the 13-year-old that died in the pool. Bunch of stuff going on. Are people talking to us?
Hello.
Hello back. Hello. So all of those things occurred there on this one property. And, a man shot himself in his car. They didn't find him for 2 weeks.
Oh.
2 weeks. He just,
no.
Yeah, so I started reading a lot of this
That's a
after
mess.
I went. And then the Ghost Adventures went there. They interviewed a waitress that said that while she was there, something pushed her and she broke her nose. Like, pushed her violently. And
Well,
she
yeah,
just,
you'd have to hit your nose that hard.
Yeah. And that there was a little boy that was interviewed on Ghost Adventures and said the same thing happened to him. And then the haunted room is room 2209, which ends up being, if you add those numbers together, the number 13. The room 5 and 1209. That's another one. And where I stayed at, like when you come up, they have a big old mural of James Dean.
Oh.
And it says Brookdale Lodge, world famous. And I stayed on the corner right there. I felt something weird. Boyfriend at the time couldn't sleep. He was freaked out. He kept seeing, he's not a very, he's a believer, but he's not somebody that's going to sit here and say that he sees it, but he was getting freaked out. And I had to leave the lights on, and I left the lights on, and he slept in one bed and I slept in the other bed, and I just I don't know if I kept seeing things or if it was the power of the imagination that I was scared.
It's still good to acknowledge what did you see when, like, from the corner of your eyes, did you see shapes or shadows?
There was a patio, and I thought I kept seeing somebody running past the patio. That was not big person. That was a small person. Now, and that could be because I was doing all the research, but also, I mean, I was freaked out. And at one time, it was around 2:30 in the morning. I was like, stop it. I said it out. I was like, can you just stop it? Like, I want to go to sleep. Like, I'm tired. I'm driving, like, and it didn't ever subside. The bathroom felt heavy. And, all the places I went to on this little haunted road trip, nothing felt like that. Nothing felt haunted. Nothing happened to me.
See, that says something to me because you have a comparison. So it is possible it was not your imagination. And one of the things I know about anything that is not just paranormal in general is making notes of it at the time it happens, because and sometimes I do think we go into altered states naturally and we pick up things, and then when we come out of it, our ego doesn't want to believe it. Like, that didn't happen. That's not possible. But the fact that you didn't feel that in all the other places, to me, makes it more believable, so that you weren't just feeling it everywhere you went.
No, and I don't feel it everywhere I went, and I don't I'll go for a long time and not experience anything. I am looking for it, but at the Brookdale Lodge, I was spooked. The only other place I've ever felt like this was the Lemp Mansion, and I heard a woman talking there, and I didn't want to go back in. But this place, I was in the room, and watching TV on the laptop, but I could not fall asleep. There was not I couldn't get comfortable. I didn't feel like wanted in that room. And then when we watched Ghost Adventures the morning after, they said that those are the haunted rooms in the corner. But it's not labeled as a haunted room. So I don't know what it was, but I just kept seeing stuff. Maybe it could have been the wind. But I felt very uneasy at the Brookdale Lodge. And I did walk around at night, and I did go seek out where the mermaid room was at. And it is in a room where the pool is sunken down, and you could see it, but it's all like, what's it called? You can't go in any of these places. The management told me that the Brook Room won't be open for another year and a half, 2 years, because they're putting a new roof on it. People do go in and break in all the time. And I said, there's no way I could go in. They go, no, because it's unsafe right now.
Yeah.
And that was the thing why they got shut down. They had so many code violations that it was dangerous.
Right.
Mermaid Room is going to be open in 1 year. And then let's talk about, there was 3 huge fires that happened on the property.
Oh, wow.
That destroyed things that they've built up. So, I mean, if there's anything like, because of the water, because we've talked about this too, water is an energy. It could be bringing some of this back.
Yes.
It being a constant current that they're using that. That's why little Sarah's there. And then I've also read online and other things that there's a room right next to the Brook Room that they have locked, where there's a lot of little toys that people have left throughout the years for the little girl ghost. And the current owner will not open up the door. You don't want nothing to do with that. But they bought it, and then they found out it was haunted, and now they're going to completely restore it. And thank you, new owners, for doing that. But it was creepy walking around there at night.
Yeah, mermaids to me, they have a mixed mythology. They can definitely be dangerous. Yeah, they're kind of wild creatures, and they're not evil, but they can lead people to death too. And I don't think they always do, but maybe it's kind of like the fairy world is kind of mixed that way too. There's sort of fairies that can sort of take you away and others that don't. At least I know the Irish mythology, that's true, and they would warn their kids about it.
Yes.
So I probably would be...
Don't go in fairy circles.
I'd be careful going into a mermaid room with such a history too.
Or are they mermaids, or are they sirens? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, are they the evil ones, or are they the happy ones? I don't know if they're even happy. I don't know, but they did say, I was doing a little research, that the mobsters would have women in there, and they would pick them out. The ones, I don't know if that's true or not, but I did read that several places. But all the deaths, it's all in the paper, the stuff that I looked up. And that's why I know, wow, how many deaths there? Okay, there's got to be something going on if that many have occurred in one specific place like that.
Has anyone done sort of an overall statistical look at what would be normal in terms of a place to have in terms of death versus what is abnormal? Like, it'd be interesting to see, because like in my neighborhood, there've been some weird deaths, and I started thinking, like, is this normal to have, like, 2 suicides and a person that died mysteriously by knocking her head, and on my street, I don't know what's considered normal,
Well, I mean, normal. I mean, they say...
Or average, I would say. What would be average?
Well, I think that it would go with along the lines of as many as a population.
Right.
If there's a huge population, like we live in LA, I mean, there's millions of people here, we would get more deaths. We would get more suicides. Those would be more normalcy, right?
Right.
But if you go to a town, say in Ohio, where there's only 500,000 people, something like that, and that happens, they would trigger something that would make the front page.
Yes,
because there's less people there.
Right.
But being in LA, as much people we have, that's why we have all the serial killers here. That's why we have all this, because they all flock here.
Yeah. I mean, you could basically just study LA paranormal wise on so many angles for your whole life and still not get to the end of it.
I have been living here for 43 years and I still haven't gone to all of them, and I've been trying to go to all of them.
Yeah.
And you still look up another place, But yeah, I mean, there's LA in itself, Hollywood is haunted. I do believe that. And Venice around here. I mean, there's so much weird little things that have occurred or instances.
My street's definitely haunted. Every now and then I have these really strange dreams where there are all these spirits upstairs and the woman that lives above me, and there are all these ghosts, and it's like the real apartment. And I've had it so many times now, and none of them seem like really like dangerous. And I've had it, it seems like when the energy gets stirred up on our street.
Yeah.
And like someone has a really loud party or something, it's really late and everyone's drinking. And, there's a lot of drug use in LA too, and alcohol. And that does bring the ghosts and the spirits. It's conducive for them, like similar to water. And of course we live on the coast. And so I think that there is a lot you could actually, dig into that actually hasn't even been touched even in LA.
Oh, definitely. And I would like to touch on some of that stuff. And that would be something that I want to look up and like see what the demographics is of what is a normal suicide rate. Not that it's normal, because please don't. But you know what I'm saying? Like what is, and then like you get the holidays that are, you know what I'm saying? There's all these factors in death. So the more that you look into it, hotels, like those are the ones.
And building projects.
Buildings, yeah.
Like where they're building the railroads, or they, the abuse of some of the labor, the Chinese immigrants. And,
Totally.
So all of that too adds to the level. There seems to be suffering that's maybe worse associated with certain haunted locations.
I agree.
Whether it's a mining accident and it's a tragic thing, and then whether it's also humans doing it to humans, which definitely counts.
Yeah, you've heard of the Linda Vista Hospital, right, over down here?
I don't think I have.
The Linda Vista Hospital, that was actually made for the railroad community, and they were a self-sustaining community. But a lot of tragedies occurred because of working on the railroad. They say it is so haunted. Now it's old folks' home. How sad for them. Poor things. Like, why make it?
Well, not unless they're into the paranormal. Maybe
they like it.
They like it.
Right. But seriously, but that place I went and I try to kind of go around. You can't go in it, of course. But that one is associated with the railroad and is very haunted. The Linda Vista Hospital.
I do wonder sometimes if eventually some of the ghosts would move on, in the sense that maybe they would like to move on, that they don't necessarily want to stay there forever, especially little kids. You'd think that, okay, maybe their time is up or and this is just kind of the way I'm thinking. It's not necessarily good or bad. And I think, are we sometimes perhaps holding them there because of our curiosity, or are they curious about us because we visit them? It's just things I think about on my days off.
Yeah, me too. I think about these things just all the time doing dishes. Is that little girl there because we keep calling her back? Yeah, you know what I mean?
I'm just wondering,
I think about this because we are calling them back. We are giving them life. And when we do talk about these places and we are still going to them, I think we are.
And I know that's also a beautiful thing, is to remember people and remember their names, because there's this idea that if your name is forgotten, that's like a second death.
Yes.
And that idea, I like the places that honor the whole life of the person, not just whatever happened to them at the end. Like you read the stories, whatever, even if they're colorful stories or, so I think, that part to me does seem important.
Yeah, like the little girl, Sarah Logan. I mean, the fact that she did pass away there, and they have little toys there and all these things for her to remember her, that obviously she's still there. If she's, that we are talking about her, and, and they say they see her mother there looking for her and other stuff like that.
You mean the mother doesn't know she's there?
The ghost of the mother is looking for her. I don't know. I mean, maybe she could come back afterwards wanting to find her.
Maybe someone should help them reunite.
Maybe.
That would be an interesting experiment.
Brown. Now, what do you think about Sylvia Brown? Now, was she like, because see, the more that I'm going into these places, they haven't been talked about since the 80s or the early 90s. I don't see a lot of things on them, the ones that I'm revisiting now. Right. But Sylvia Brown goes to all of them. Now, was she a hoax, or was she?
Oh, that's a whole story. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of her either, and for some really legitimate reasons, they're not.
The girl, right? That she told the mom that girl was dead and she wasn't. Now I remember that. Also,
personally, we know someone who personally, his girlfriend at a time had a reading with her, and she was extremely mean to her.
Really?
And she admired her. She went to her And that seemed really off to me. Like it was, and I know this person was not making it up. It's
really?
like, it's not, it's not, in fact, he's really into kind of trying to find the truth about people.
Yeah.
And he just mentioned it in passing to us too. So it wasn't like all over Instagram talking about it.
Right.
This was years ago when she was alive. And, it's the famous psychics. Now Jean Dixon. I don't know if you remember.
I remember Jean Dixon.
I think she did have
She was
some
in the
ability.
Star magazine. My grandma used to read.
I think she had some in the beginning. I think Fame, because she got some things correct. I think about the assassination but I think sometimes Fame in certain situations with psychics is not a good mix.
Right.
Because we're all, I don't know, we're
like
all
the Psychic
fallible.
Friends Network.
Well, we're all fallible. I am. It's sort of like, I know that if I was given billions of dollars, I would be tempted by things that I'm not now. Now, will I resist it? I hope so. I hope that my values are stronger. But I know that I'm, a flawed human being too. So, the thing about some of the famous psychics too, it seems like when you look into them, like the current ones, there's definitely some, I don't know, questionable things.
Right.
Is what I would say. Yet there are some I do look for historically amazing, like Edgar Cayce.
Yes.
He really was a true clairvoyant. And there's just so much documentation on him.
Like the Fox sisters. They were pulling our leg. There was other ones. And Houdini, which people don't realize, is Houdini was actually going after to debunk these things.
Yes.
He truly was trying to say that, hey, and he went up to the Winchester Mystery House and he said that, he couldn't debunk it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they say, but that's one thing I like about Houdini, going to places of Houdini, because he was trying to be like how I am, a skeptic,
right?
Wanting to find out the truth, not trying to make it up and like sensationalize it.
Yes.
Type of thing,
Well, and I think that anything in the occult, you want to learn discernment. We talked about this on the last show, on the Spirit Marriage show, which was fascinating. And that you have to learn discernment. But the thing I've also had to learn, because I went from being really open to everything to being too closed to sort of really crazy ideas, it seemed like. And now I'm kind of more open to things that before I wasn't, like spirit attachment. I'm much more open to, because I've investigated on my own.
Right.
I've started trusting more of my experiences, and I don't always label them as something like, just I know that, okay, something's going on here. I know something unusual is happening. And I think there's also a lot more science going on with psychic studies than I realized. The more you dig into, like Real Magic is a great book.
Right.
They're doing incredible research on psychicism, and it's really valid. And to poo-poo it all, like the really, the negative skeptics that just say none of that's real. Sorry, you can't explain some of these things, and that's not
unexplainable.
True.
And it's like ghosts. I mean, I've had people just straight up come up to me and go, Holly, I don't believe in ghosts. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Mm-hmm. I do. Like they almost wanted to argue with me about it. And it's like, I'm not here to argue about it. It's my belief. I'm going to take that to my grave. Yeah. And I'm going to believe in this. And if I could find evidence along the way and show it or experience it on my own, that's the cool part about it.
Yeah.
Well,
you kind of wonder when people come up to you like that, if they are a little bit curious, because I think otherwise they just not even bother. Like, think about if you're not interested in something, you don't even bother with it, right?
Right.
But the fact that you want to go and have a little argument, to me, there's a party going like, maybe,
digging, like, hey, talk to me about this. What have you been through? And it's like, well, I mean, every time I get back from these things, my coworkers or other friends will ask me, like, what happened? And like this time I didn't have anything necessarily happen, but I was freaked out in the Brookdale Lodge and I didn't feel right. I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel like sleeping. I left the lights on all night long.
That's kind of a big deal to me, because leaving the lights on, especially as an adult, it's not a habit. If you did it all the time, that'd be one thing.
I have to sleep
with your boyfriend, who's not even as into it as you are, he also felt uncomfortable.
Our friend and we were talking the other night, and they were like, you know what? You were vulnerable. They were going after you. Because he's 6 foot, 240 pounds, and was like, can you go into the bathroom with me? And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I don't feel like, he was freaked out, and when I turned on the light, I felt freaked out knowing that he was scared. Because it was kind of like, okay, you're feeling a certain way because you don't make this stuff up. You don't talk about it.
Right.
And I put it on my Instagram. He's like, it doesn't feel like a hangover, but my head hurts in here. He's like, I don't feel right. I have it. And he's just like laying there talking about it. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? There's something to be said about that if you don't feel right. You know, and I'm like, do you want to move rooms? No. I'm like, okay, well, I don't either. I mean, we're here, but it was definitely scary.
And you felt better once you left?
Yeah. Once I left, I did. Once I left the room, I didn't feel right showering there. It just felt different. Like I said, I slept with the lights on. I don't do that at home. I sleep in complete darkness with a fan going. I like the white noise and that. I had the lights on. I had the bathroom light. I didn't want no shadows, basically, because he said there was something to do with, like, he kept seeing something in them. Maybe.
So I assume you wouldn't go back there.
Yes, I will.
You will?
Yeah!
Oh, good for you.
I'll go back anytime. Let's go. And this time maybe I won't be so tired, or because I was on such like a short trip, that
yes.
I will investigate more, because we were tired and we were hitting the road, and it was like mystery spot, ring store, Mosby's Distillery, head to San Francisco. I mean, that was like, let's do this. It was like, go, get to all these places, photograph them, and then get home and be to work the next day at 8 a.m.
Well,
I did it.
And fatigue can make you more vulnerable when you're really tired. So that makes sense. So if you go there, you want to be really fresh.
I do. I want to drive straight up to the Brookdale Lodge this time. 6 hours, I can do that. Because I can drive myself 10 to 12 hours on my own. But just to drive straight there, I could be able to do that and hold a real investigation and sit there in silence. I was in silence in that room and I was freaked out, though. Mm-hmm. And I did it almost like I didn't want to investigate it because I was so freaked out being the first time. Mm-hmm. I was like, what if I hear something? Then I'm going to like want to leave in the middle of the night, or, you know, and the guys in the morning when I was to check out, I told him what we had experienced, and he's like, oh yeah, because I'm like, you know, when is the Brook room going to be open, and when is this? And he's like, you know, the whole property is haunted. The construction workers see people constantly.
Wow.
They see things. So if that's constantly going on there, there's something to be said.
Yes. Yeah, especially when the workers see things. I think that's also one of the things I find that is very valid. Yeah. Because they're not necessarily even there to see, and they're there to do the work. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And if they're getting spooked out about things, then that is something to be said about the place. And that was the most murders and most suicides. Afterwards, I started really digging deep into it and seeing all the stuff, and was like, okay, that's why. Mm-hmm. You know, and we took Fred.
That's right. Fred is here. Fred. Now, when did you get Fred? Fred is 10. A skull for those of you that don't see it.
Skull. He's a bowling ball, and I've taken him everywhere, and he's been in my life since I was 10 years old. And my grandmother, God rest her soul, didn't even flinch when I wanted to buy it at a thrift store. She bought it for me.
That's pretty cool, grandmother.
Thank you, Grandma. Yeah, she was like, okay, whatever.
So I did want to shout out how people can follow you, since you have really great pictures of all the places you go to. You take a lot of good pictures. And I mean, some of the places are just gorgeous.
Yeah. When I go to some of these places, I am taken back. I am like, oh my God, I'm so happy when I see them, you know, because you can actually, because they're so big compared to the art architecture, you know, they're 3-5 stories or whatever. When you come up on them, they're breathtaking, they're beautiful. We need to keep them alive. We need to preserve these buildings.
Absolutely. So now your tag, I think, is different from when I had this. It's not Holly Lindblom on Instagram anymore. Is
it's
it?
Holly.Lindblom.
Okay, so that's how they can find you. You also have 1 or 2 Facebook pages.
I have a Do You Believe in Ghosts? I have that Facebook page that shows like a ghost in a sheet, because I do that too. To make not fun of the things, but to give it like a funny, not so scary. I put on a sheet with my Gucci glasses and I pose.
I love it.
I think it's everywhere. Really great. I think it's so cool.
I love it. I think it's really great.
I do that all the time. Yeah.
But yeah, you post quite frequently, and sometimes you do some live postings I've seen when you're at locations, and people can catch up with you and sort of see what you're doing. And
totally.
And know more about your book. I'm excited that you're getting more into your book. I can't wait to see it.
I'm gonna need your help on it, because you've done 2 now, 2 or 3.
I've only done little poetry books, but they do take a lot of energy for sure. I know that. So thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Holly, for
Thank
coming
you
into the
for joining.
studio.
Yes,
we loved having you. Join us next time as we continue to explore the esoteric and the obscure together. Have a haunted week.
Happy haunting.